Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Under the Hood with Glenn. I'm sitting down with our general manager, Wes, and we're going to be talking about his journey in the automotive industry and how he got to where he is today. So stick around. How'd you get into the car business? Was it kind of always something you wanted to do, always the area you wanted to get into, or is it just kind of something that happened?
Yeah, it was definitely by accident. When I got out of University of Kentucky, I was a journalism major, radio journalism, and there's not, at the time, not a lot of opportunity for that specific position, or I hadn't found it yet. And my dad knew the fleet manager at the Ford dealership in Nicholasville, and so I got in touch with him, asked if I could work on cars, but I didn't have any tools, so he said, if you don't have any tools, then you can wash cars. So I started washing cars, and then a couple months later, I had made friends with some of the salespeople and spent some time up front and just kind of got to know everybody. And I don't even remember who, but somebody said you should try selling cars. So I went to the manager and said, "Hey, do you mind if I try selling cars?" And he asked me if I had nice clothes, and I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Show up tomorrow with your nice clothes on, and we'll give it a shot." And that was about going on 11 years ago. So yeah, that was the start.
It was at the Ford dealership in Nicholasville. Was that one of the Walters group?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was different general manager and everything. That was about a year and a half before Nathan moved up to Lexington and took that dealership over. So yeah, I sold cars there for about a year and a half.
Gotcha. So how long was it from starting in detail to you were a sales
person? It was just over it was like 3 months, because I know I started right at the beginning of the year, and I started in detail in end of August. So I think it was about 3 months, and then I started in January in sales.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Walk me through kind of how you went from that, entry-level sales, hey, just show up in your nice stuff, to now you're the general manager of the highest volume CDJR dealership in the area.
Yeah, I guess I don't know that through my entire career, I don't know that I've ever felt like I really deserved it. I work very, very hard, but I guess I hold myself to really high standards. I sold cars for about a year and a half, and at that point, Nathan came up and took ownership of, or was the general manager of that store, and I was doing well in sales at that time. I was selling probably between 15 and 20 cars a month. I was one of the top guys there, with a great group of guys that are all managers at other car dealerships now, and some that still work for us, Turner, some of those guys. Mm-hmm. But I was doing great, and there was a spot open in the finance department. So Nathan asked me if I would do that job, which I was happy to do. And then from there, I guess I did that job for probably about a year, and then I moved to a desk manager job there at that store, and I did that for probably a year or so. And then about that time, Freedom Dodge came into play. They took ownership of that store, and then I moved over there. I bounced kind of back and forth between those two stores in different manager positions. I was a used car manager at Freedom, which was really my favorite job in the dealership, because I'm a car person. I love cars. My dad was a mechanic, so that job, being in and out of cars all day long, figuring out what's wrong with them, trying to get them fixed, that was a really fun job for me. And then when I guess it was September or ish later in 2020, when we acquired this store here, And Nathan asked me if I would move to Louisville, and that's kind of how we got where we're at right now. I just have always had the approach that I'm just going to show up every day and do the best that I can, and whatever comes of that is what I'll take. And the general manager job has been it's been a great experience to see the business from a different perspective, to see how everybody working together can create the outcomes that you desire. And I guess I would consider like one of my biggest really accomplishments is to help lead the team through what we're going through right now. It's a really tough thing to sell cars and to service cars, and then when you have to do it out of a 8-foot wide trailer for 2 months, when you got cars at 3 different locations, and it's really hard on the sales guys and on the technicians, and everybody kind of working together to get through that, and me being able to help with that and keep these guys positive and motivated has been, I guess I'm fairly proud of that, but that's been a challenge.
Yeah, because we've kept our numbers pretty consistent since the fire, even though we're working out of those trailers and we're having to get stuff that's like 30 minutes away to try and sell.
Even really, a small increase even,
Yeah, no, that's significant, and it's not like, I don't know, 2025 isn't the easiest year to sell cars in compared to previous years.
It's very true.
So that's definitely an accomplishment. What's kind of changed, how's your perspective changed about car sales, kind of starting at the bottom, cleaning them, and then you're a salesman, you're kind of doing that at the mid-level finance, and then you're almost at the top now.
Yeah.
So how has your perspective on the whole process shifted throughout that time?
Yeah, great question. When I was in detail, I said I liked cars, fast cars, like my thing, Mustangs, which I was working at a Ford store at the time, so there were a lot of those type of cars around. And I kind of went over and above, like I just treated them like they were my car, that's how I cleaned a car. I cleaned it like it was mine. And when I got it done, I would drive it up front, and I would take my detail rags with me, and, I'd get the water spots, it'd come off the doors and by the mirrors. And, I had a customer tell me that, that he appreciated that somebody cared about their job. And to go back to your question, I think that the details are kind of what has changed. When I sold cars, and when I started, it was, how do we get somebody in here? How do we get them really, really excited about a vehicle? And that was the main thing, right? Get somebody excited about the vehicle. The numbers will kind of work themselves out after that. There wasn't a ton of internet shopping. That was kind of when really internet sales on car shopping was kind of get started. Most of our business was people walking through the front door. Now it's completely the opposite of that. People who walk through the door here, 9 times out of 10, they already know what they want to buy. They already know the pricing before they've ever gotten here. So our business has definitely changed because when COVID started, we were still selling cars, but the whole experience was completely different. It was a touchless experience. You worked the numbers before the customer ever saw the car, which is completely opposite of the way that I was trained to do it. You figure the car out first, and then you work the numbers. But we did all of the numbers at the beginning. We did the credit applications. Everything was down to the penny. And then there was a Home Depot parking lot right next door from us there in Lexington, and we would drive the car down there with the paperwork in the passenger seat. And the salesperson would leave the car down there and either go into Home Depot or they'd walk back up the hill, and the customer would be there, and we would just wait for a call. And they'd say, yeah, we like the car, we want to buy it, the paperwork's right here. And then, we would go back down and get the paperwork, and the deal would be done, and they would take the car.
Oh, wow.
So, that's kind of how I think this new experience that car buying has become really started. Definitely with COVID, when things became touchless, everything shifted to let's figure everything out before we get to the dealership, not let's get to the dealership and then figure it out. So that's really the biggest change in my opinion, and probably the biggest thing that we struggle with now. Really is we're so focused on, the numbers part of it and getting that done that sometimes we forget that the car is the most important thing. The car is what you have to drive on a daily basis, that you got to take your kids to soccer practice in, or bring the groceries home in, or park in parking lots. And, those are the things that we kind of lose focus on, doing really, really good demos for cars, doing great test drives, really building that relationship between the customer and their vehicle. That part is what we've really kind of got to get back to, because that's really, really important. I mean, the numbers are one thing, but we have a saying here that there's no right price for the wrong car. Mm-hmm. And you've got to make sure that your customer is comfortable with what they're buying and finding out what their problems are that they're trying to solve. I mean, I don't think it's a big secret that most people don't like to shop for cars. So when that time comes around, it's because they've got a problem that has now exceeded, that fear that they have of going to buy a car. So then they get in the process and, they're trying to solve a problem. So our job, we have really got to work on shifting back to what has brought the customer to us, so that we can then deliver a better experience by saying, hey, maybe this is what you had interest in, but have you thought about X, Y, Z? Mm-hmm. This may be better, and finding better fits for customers. I think that's really where we have to try to get back to and find a balance between those two things, because obviously a lot of people are very, nowadays they want to have those numbers and those things figured out before they get to a dealership, but have a lot of people who figure all that out and get to the dealership and don't like the car. Yeah. So a balance, finding that is where we've really got to get back to. But that's been the biggest change that I have seen from my time when I first started to where we're at now. And then the type of car salesman is vastly different than what you saw when I started. I worked with, a bunch of older guys who, wore suits every day, and just your very, like, if you think car salesman in the cloud above your head, like that's what I grew up with. And now, it's these younger guys that are just getting out of college, getting out of high school, who want to get started and build a career. That's something that these young guys can do, and that very typical, slick-backed, haired, fast-talking car salesman, he's kind of gone by the wayside now. Mm-hmm. So those are the biggest changes that I've seen. Yeah,
that's interesting. Kind of talking about the process and the shift after COVID. You see a lot of people talking about how dealerships are archaic. We don't need them anymore. Mm-hmm. They're old news. You don't need salesmen. Why can't we buy direct from consumer? I think you touched on it a little bit. You do kind of need someone to demo the car. Like you don't buy a house off the rack. Right. You don't buy something. You don't make complex purchases off the rack. You need someone to inspect the house. You need someone to find the right house for your budget and work the deal. People hate realtors too. Yep. But yeah, kind of speak to that. Where do you think that's going? How do you address that strain in the consumer's mindset now, and how do you think it's going to move forward? What do you think the changes are going to be?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at a lot of companies out there that have that kind of direct from the manufacturer model, which obviously, number one would be a company like Tesla. Where you really don't go and do a generic test drive. But I think Tesla is, aside from everything else that, with Elon and everything else, just talking about the car company, I think that it's very niche. The people who are looking for that car want to buy that car. Mm-hmm. They're not really saying, I'm going to shop a Tesla versus a Dodge Challenger. They're going to go buy a Tesla. So that is a little bit different. I think that consumer is a little bit different, but I think that 90% of people who are out there looking for a car, they want to be able to build a relationship. They want to be able to find a place where not only is it sales, but it's service, because cars are cars are more of our life than we really realize until we have a problem.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, your car is kind of taken for granted until one day it doesn't start, and then everything gets thrown off kilter. So finding a place that you can build a relationship with, I think, is very important for people. And I'm glad you brought it up. We had a customer in here, I think it was on Monday, who was talking about buying a car from Carvana. And he went to Carvana, said, hey, you guys have a car that I want to buy. Can I test drive it? We don't do that here. So, I mean, like, you can buy the car, we'll bring it to you, and then you would have the opportunity to test drive it before you buy it, but they want you to go through everything first. And like you said, you get to like a certain amount of money that you're willing to spend before you've got to be like, okay, I got to put my hands on this.
Right.
And I think that with cars, especially when it comes to used cars, no two cars are the same. And people want to kind of build that, I guess, relationship with a vehicle and with a person. And I think that you have seen companies like Carvana. You look at their stock market prices over the last couple years. I mean, they almost went completely bankrupt. And they've come back a little bit now, but I think that is like speaking to that.
Yeah.
Like even though a lot of our buying has shifted to online buying, there's still going to be a time where that customer has to come in and put their hands on the wheel of the vehicle and drive it and make sure that it's right for them.
Right.
And you get it. I've heard a lot of horror stories with companies like that. Vehicle gets there, you've gone through the whole process. There's issues, then trying to get those issues fixed after the fact, after you've already taken delivery of that car, and then now who do I call? Oh, it's Carvana or it's CarMax. I'm going to call this 1-800 number and figure out who to get a hold of and get transferred
to 20 minutes to get to a human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, when you buy a car from a sales professional, it's a very lasting relationship, and hopefully our sales consultants do a great job of building on that and following up with those customers that they've sold cars to and continuing to work on that relationship. But yeah, I think, and even a few years ago, we talked about doing a thing that was these cars that they were building in China, and you just ordered. It never became anything, but it was like a kiosk type of thing that you would set up in the corner of your dealership, and somebody could come in and like put this car together how they wanted it with different options, and then it would just show up like in a box, and that never became anything. I mean, that's people just need to be able to put their hands on something.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it comes to car dealerships, like me, as I have never considered myself to be like, I don't know everything there is to know about cars, and I don't know everything there is to know about selling them and, convincing people to do things. Like for me, it was just, I'm just going to talk to you like you are my friend, and you and I are going to build a relationship. We are going to figure out these problems together. What are the issues that you're having that brought you to me today? What are the top 3 things you want in your next vehicle? What do you want in your next one that your last one didn't have? Those type of questions, and then you can work through those issues together. And then at the end of the day, the customer is very happy with what they've done. They feel like they've made a relationship with somebody that they can call, a year down the road, 2 years down the road, and have that same service again. And I think that's what will keep us in the game forever. Really.
Yeah. That's interesting too, because like, I'd imagine as you move up the ladder, the kind of customers you deal with changes.
Sure.
Because when you're a salesman, you're getting customers in that you're the first person that they've kind of talked to at the dealership.
Yep.
And now the people that make it to the GM's desk are normally people that haven't had the best experience.
Yeah.
Or are stuck in the process somewhere.
Yeah.
So what's your process and like your mindset with dealing with that? Because that's different than just building a relationship from scratch. You're doing damage control at that point.
Yeah, in some cases, yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's about you're always going to have issues. It doesn't matter what your business is or how proficient or how great you are at it, or what kind of customer service you deliver. You're always going to run into issues, and these issues are typically things with a lot of times it's pre-owned vehicles that have issues a month or 2 months, 3 months after they've been purchased, and it's about expectations too. I mean, obviously we want to deliver a high level of service to our customers, but at the same time, you buy a brand new vehicle that costs $20,000 more than a used one, so that you don't have those type of issues. So it's managing those expectations, but at the same time doing the right thing for the consumer. I think that if I can make every decision that I make, like, let me just set the business part of it aside, like what it costs. Let's just take that out of the equation completely, and let's say what is right for the customer and what is not right, and let's do the right thing. And then I think when you approach it that way, a lot of these issues can be solved. And a lot of times it gets to me because it is a money thing. Like, sometimes touching up a car, I mean, that's easy, but a car that drives out of here and 3 weeks later the transmission has an issue, that's a lot more costly. So that's a decision that I have to make. But you said that somebody in the position that I'm at usually talks to people that are very upset. That's true, but I also still try to stay heavily involved with sales, talking to those customers, greeting people on the lot, being that first one that people talk to, and I've never really been like a title guy, but when that first person is me, sometimes that really helps the customer. Because I know how the process is going to go, and I can explain to them, hey, this is what we can do for you while you're here today. These are the services that we provide. I'm here to help if you have any issues along the way, and I think that can really help people be a little bit more at ease with the process that they normally might not be very comfortable with. Because when it comes to management involvement with customers, typically at most dealerships, you've got your managers set behind some kind of glass cabinet over here, or up on some pedestal over in the corner, and you don't ever talk to that person. You've got this run back and forth between your salesperson and your manager, oh, if I could, would you, that type of thing. And I think that being the one who gets up and goes and talks to that customer and fixes that problem and handles it right there, not only does it help me like to maintain to have great conversations along with some of those tough conversations, it helps me to stay even-keeled myself, but also shows the people that work with me how I think that things should be done, and hopefully that sets an example for them. I'm very much an example person. I don't like to ask people to do stuff that I don't want to do. So if I have, if I want my managers to get up and talk to customers, then what am I to do? Tell them, hey, get up and go talk to that customer, or do I get up and show them that this is how we do it? In my opinion, that's the way to do it 10 times out of 10.
Last question. What are some aspects of, managing a dealership that either salesmen or customers, people who just, interact with the dealership on a daily basis might not know, might not understand? I'm going to redo that because of that.
Yeah, give me a second to think about the answer.
Yeah. And I'll ask it again, probably in a more clear way. So last question. What are some of the things that people that, they see the dealership from the outside, or maybe on the lower levels of the dealership, what are some things they don't really see that goes into running a dealership?
The first thing that comes to mind is just the sheer volume of people and customers that we deal with on a daily basis. I am very much a customer myself, and I understand the perspective of, if I have an issue, I want it to be fixed, and I want it to be fixed right now. That's a really tough thing to have to deal with looking at the dealership as a whole, because you want every customer to receive individual attention, but also to understand that our service department has 250 open repair orders. You know, our sales consultants have 60 people in their active leads. You know, I mean, it's there is a way to do it, right, where you manage those expectations with customers and still deliver the level of service that needs to be delivered. But some of those are very tough conversations. You know, I have this issue with my car. I want it fixed today. Well,
Yeah.
you know, especially with the situation we have now where our service department's 20 miles away, there's a lot of logistical issues that have to be fixed before we can provide that fix at the end of the day. So, you know, that's one thing that's very difficult for me, is just trying to balance all of those different customers and having them understand that even though this may take a certain amount of time, that is still the right way to do it, and the way that we can help fix their solution in the best way possible. Because there are going to be issues, and there are people who have had cars, you know, in the shop for a month or longer, waiting on parts or waiting on the right technician to diag the issue. And those customers, they want their car done today too. So, you know, that's a very, very tough thing. I gotta tell you, the hardest part for me really has been like the management aspect of it, like the type of conversations that you have with, you know, like my bosses. And those are, you know, like, I don't consider myself to be very complicated. Like, I grew up on a farm, and, you know, like, I'm not a genius. Like, I think I'm just like a regular guy. And, you know, sometimes, like right now, we're talking about, you know, insurance and what's going to happen with that, and how this is going to happen, and when's it going to happen, and it's just, it scrambles my brain to sit in those conversations, and then ask to be part of those conversations is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And why for me it's very fun to, at the end of the day, sit down and talk to a customer and figure out how to sell a car. That is, you know, that to me is like a deep breath, when I can figure out how to like get away from all of this other stuff that I have to attend to. And, you know, like, we're in the situation we're in right now, like, things that you don't think about when you're in a full building, like, okay, are the bathrooms clean? You know, like, who's taking care of that? Am I going to ask like the salespeople to go clean the bathrooms? Like, no. So I do that, right? I make sure that that's done right. I make sure that, you know, that we got ice and we got water in the coolers every day, so that these guys, you know, because we don't have a vending machine anymore, we don't have a water fountain anymore. So those little things that you take for granted every day, when those go away, you know, whose responsibility is that?
Yeah.
And I think that's been the hardest part of it. Like, a month into the job in January of this year, Nathan came to me in the showroom over here, and he's like, hey, you know, there's what's going on over here in the corner. Like, why is there stuff on that table over there? And why is this here? And why is this here? And like, thinking about a business as a business owner, or I guess working on the business instead of in the business, has been something that's I have had to make the transition of. Very much used to working in the business every day, like working out, calling customers, trying to figure out how to sell a car, getting a customer in for service. How do we figure that out? And now it's, how do I improve the business as a whole? How do I make sure that the business runs like it's supposed to run every day? How do I make sure that these guys have the tools that they need to do their job without being distracted? You know, how can these managers get freed up to do the job that they are most effective doing? How can I take that off of their plate? And so that probably has been the biggest challenge for me, is just to transition from just coming in every day and trying to figure out how to put a car deal together, to how do I grow this business? How do I keep my employees happy? How do I show them that there's a way for them to move up and forward in the business for those who want to? Because this is a business now, especially for young people, that you can come in and make a career out of and make a very good living out of without having to have a college degree. And you can learn so much, not just about selling cars, but about relationships, which in a day where we're all stuck in our phones, we're all TikTok, Instagram, short stories,
Yep.
how do I get my news? How do I get it the fastest? How do we transition these young people from that to figuring out how to build a relationship with somebody and how to talk to people and work together as a team and solve problems? And I guess I'm a common sense guy, or I think that I am, and I think that helping others have that same perspective is a very difficult thing to do with the amount of influence that people are taking in. Everything that we see on a daily basis just moves so fast, and slowing that down and making sure that we're doing all the steps in the right way is a challenge. But yeah, that's been the biggest thing. But it has been for me something that when I started in this business, I never thought that I would be here. I never thought I would be halfway to where I'm at. It wasn't something that I ever thought that I wanted, but the opportunities came, whether it was me or whether it was right place, right time. I don't really care, but it has been, it's made my life. Before I got into the car business, I was just a college graduate. I didn't know what I was going to do, where I was going to go, or if I was going to be successful, or what. But this has given me and my family everything that we have, and I'm very thankful for it. And I try to pass that along to others so that they can have the same experience that I've had. And at the end of the day, that's what I want.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to do a podcast with you towards the beginning of it because I know, like, you just have such a cool story. You're a great manager, and you've got really interesting perspectives on a lot of parts of the car business. So thanks, Wes, for taking the time out of your schedule to sit down, and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.